move on to Manchester United. Now, Pete, it sounds like Sir Alex Ferguson actually is back at the club, having more of an influential role again at Old Trafford. Can you tell us, Pete, some more about his position now and actually what that means for the future of the club?
Yeah, obviously, I think it's pretty evident that it does look like Sir Alex Ferguson does have a good relationship with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. You've seen them together at games, sat with each other at games, and obviously Sir Dave Brailsford as well has also been pictured alongside Sir Alex Ferguson. So obviously I'm sure Sir Alex Ferguson is giving his input to both men as they look to make changes at Old Trafford. And then obviously as well, we've seen Sir Alex Ferguson, he's such a legendary figure at the club as well. I'm sure Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir Dave Brailsford have been asking him for advice on what he would do and what they need to do to try and close the gap on those other top clubs now in England and get back to where they feel they belong. So I think Sir Alex Ferguson, he has been pushing maybe for Dougie Freedman to join as the recruitment team and become sporting director under Dan Ashworth as well. So I think that's one of the key ones that he's been pushing for. He's got a good close relationship with Dougie Freedman. So that's somebody that he's recommended that could come in and help restructure United's recruitment, which has come in for a lot of criticism over the last few years with a lot of wasted money by United in the transfer market. So getting that structure right off the pitch is the first port of call for United. And after that, then they can maybe build from there and, as I said, improve on the pitch as well.
I mean, Paul, do you think this sort of places Erik ten Hag's future in doubt? What do you think Sir Alex Ferguson makes of him as a manager?
I mean, you can't speak for other people, but I think the whole situation places Erik ten Hag's future in doubt. I think the gross overspend on certain players that are at the club, the underperforming team, the way that the team play, you still watch them. They had that fantastic run after Christmas and then they go back-to-back defeats. The unpredictability of his team, there's no real identity. And I just think the whole restructuring at Manchester United is what puts his future in doubt. You look at what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's doing, you look at Dan Ashworth coming in, that they're not just going to ride with what they've got because it's not right. There's a reason that they're bringing these people in. Yes, the backroom staff does need restructuring. The club does need an overhaul. And we've said it on here before, listen, I think they've got to go through a lot more pain until they get to where they want to get to. But as far as Erik ten Hag's concerned, I mean, they're doing okay at the moment. They've got an outside chance of a Champions League place. It's a really outside chance now because Spurs and Villa have picked up. The team were picking up points until recently. And when you look at it, what reason have you got to change it now? There's nobody really out there. I mean, you're going to get a temporary charge, an interim in charge between now and the end of the season when Ten Hag's actually doing okay and they're getting better results. But long-term future, I don't see that he's got a long-term future there under this new structure. I think they'll bring in their own manager. I think they'll bring in a new manager. And I think it'll be a new look Manchester United next year.
Pete, do you think that actually Sir Alex going forwards is going to have a say on the managerial position? Like you kind of mentioned about Dougie Freedman recruitment, will that also then feed into what's going on pitch, not only off it as well?
I think he'll have a bit of an influence maybe on who they go for new manager. And as I said, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and I think Sir Dave Brailsford will lean on Sir Alex Ferguson maybe for some advice, and they will definitely ask his opinion if they do decide to sack Erik ten Hag, who he feels might be the right man to come into Old Trafford and become the manager. Obviously, Sir Alex Ferguson had major influence when he did step down for David Moyes to come in as manager. That didn't work out. So there's no guarantee. There's no magic wand, I think, from Sir Alex Ferguson to go and have a major influence on the new manager. Dan Ashworth's experienced. He's well connected. He knows how to run successful clubs as well. So it'll be his decision and obviously the rest of the board to decide who they want to go for as a new manager if they do decide to sack Erik ten Hag come the end of the season. I think if United do miss out in the Champions League, which is looking likely right now, I think, as Paul mentioned, with the new regime, they probably will look for a new manager to take the helm at Old Trafford as well. And there has been talk of Graham Potter, the ex-Chelsea manager, who obviously is well admired, I think, by Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And I do think Roberto De Zerbi from Brighton will be somebody who figures quite highly on that list as well. So, yeah, I think United, they just need to get the structure right off the pitch, and then they'll start to make decisions to see who is the right man to take them forward on the pitch. And if they don't feel that's Ten Hag, they will look to bring a new man in.
Well, you look where Ten Hag's taken this season compared to where they were last season. I mean, yeah, I think they overachieved last season, but let's be honest, they started this season with a trophy in the cabinet and a place in the Champions League. They came out of a Champions League group with Copenhagen and Galatasaray, which they should have got through. They should have qualified out of that group at least into the last 16. And they're underachieving in the league compared to where they were last year. So there's an argument to say that with the signings, the money is spent, the team's actually regressed from where it was this stage last year.
I mean, Pete, one name to mention as well, of course, Jadon Sancho now flourishing back at Dortmund on loan. Actually, in terms of his valuation, what do you make of that? You know, he's kind of made it clear that he doesn't want to return if Erik ten Hag is in charge, like we kind of all just discussed there. He may not be next season, but that remains to be seen. What would he, if United are looking at selling him, what would they be looking at selling him for?
Yeah, obviously a lot is up in the air. Things could change quickly if Erik ten Hag was to lose his job. Jadon Sancho might decide to return to Old Trafford, and it'd be a clean slate for all the players at United if ten Hag was to leave and a new manager was to come in. Obviously, United spent heavily on Sancho when they signed him from Dortmund a couple of years ago, £70 million plus. Obviously, United in an ideal world would like to get as much as that recouped if they could, but I think his price tag has obviously dropped since he's not been playing at United in the first 6 months of the season. For Jadon Sancho right now, you're probably looking between the 40 to 50 million pound mark if he can recapture his best form, because we know he is a quality player, which he has proven at Dortmund over the years, and it does look like he is starting to rediscover a bit of that magic that he had at Dortmund in his first spell, scoring the opening goal in that Champions League last 16 game against PSV. Was his first goal at home for Dortmund since his return to the club as well. So it's a great opportunity for Jadon Sancho to put himself back in the shop window during this loan spell at Dortmund. Dortmund have already admitted they would struggle to afford Sancho on a permanent deal. Come the summer, they would love to keep him. There's even been talk of potential swap deals or another loan deal if nothing else can be agreed. But a lot will depend on what's going on at Manchester United and with Erik ten Hag, because if ten Hag remains at Old Trafford, I don't see any way back for Jadon Sancho.
I mean, Paul, given some of the fans' claims, really, you know, that they've kind of said that actually they're quite disappointed now. Of course, Sancho is flourishing. Not much of a surprise, clearly a top talent. Do they have a right to be annoyed and disappointed at the club that he's actually gone out and now he's doing well, effectively sort of fulfilling the dream that they had when they signed him?
I think they've got a right to be upset with him, because I think his attitude and application, for whatever reason, we still don't know the finer details, that he's fallen out with the manager. But there's a reason that Manchester United paid that huge fee for him. I mean, he was an exciting young talent and a top player. And since he's come to Manchester United, he's been at Manchester United, he hasn't got anywhere near the form that got him the move to Manchester United. And for whatever reason that is, whether that's the relationship with the manager, whether that's his own personal issues off the field, whether it's his attitude, his application, whatever it is, the move to Manchester United for him has been a failure. He had to go to Dortmund. He had to get out in that window to basically to relight his own career, because it come to a standstill. It stopped. Wherever it was, wherever it went, he had to get out there and go and play some football. And I said on here before, I said I thought it was a big nod in the favour of Erik ten Hag, basically that he's won that battle. The manager's still there and he's allowed the player to move. But it's absolutely right. I mean, he's potentially got a future still at Manchester United. You look at what he's doing at Dortmund now, scoring last night in the Champions League. You look at his performances, scored a couple of goals in the league, and he's getting back to the level that actually got him the move to Manchester United in the first place. And if, like I suspect, Erik ten Hag isn't there next year, whoever the manager is at Manchester United, you can integrate Jadon Sancho back into your squad.
I mean, Pete, that's obviously exciting news for United fans to hear. Would he likely start over the likes of Antony? I mean, Garnacho's done really well this season. Where would you see him fitting into that squad?
Yeah, I think obviously if he does come back in the summer and he has played well for Borussia Dortmund, you try and find space for him. Obviously, I think for a lot of United fans, they would probably prefer Jadon Sancho in the side ahead of Antony, who's really struggled for form since his big money move from Ajax. He was an Erik ten Hag signing, having worked with the Dutchman during their time together at Ajax as well, but he's really sort of flattered to deceive, I think, for United since his arrival in England as well. Garnacho probably has been arguably one of United's best players this season as well, so they'd want to keep him in and around the team. There's obviously fresh rumours flying around about Marcus Rashford's long-term future at Old Trafford as well. Talk that PSG might look at the England international as a potential replacement for Kylian Mbappe, who is on the move to Real Madrid. So, yeah, I think obviously there is room for Jadon Sancho, especially if they were to offload a few players, said Antony was to leave. And also potentially if Marcus Rashford was to leave, that opens up two spaces as wingers, and Jadon Sancho could ideally fill both of those positions as well. So, yeah, I think United, depending on what happens with the manager, they would be foolish to write off Jadon Sancho right now.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.